Hey, this is Ashley at Homestead, the channel for people who want to grow most of their own food without getting overwhelmed. And today we're going to be talking about when to move your chicks out of the brooder. Now, when you first get baby chicks, they cannot regulate their body temperature well, which is why we have to put them in a warm spot. They like it to be like 90 degrees, so nice and balmy. And in the spring, it can be really hard to get the brooder that warm. But how do you know when your chicks are ready to transition from super nice, warm, sunny, heat lamp environment to the great outdoors? In other words, how do you know when they're ready to regulate their body temperature themselves? Well, the first question to ask yourself is, what are your temperatures like? What temperature is it getting to at night? What is your low temperature for the day? If it's still dipping down into the 50s or 40s, you're probably gonna have to wait longer to let your chicks out than if you're having 60-degree nights. The lowest I would personally put birds out at is at about 3 weeks old and minimum of 45-degree temperatures at night. If I'm putting 3-week-old broiler chicks on pasture, I like to see lows no lower than 45 degrees. Although if you look at Joel Salatin's book, Pasture-Raised Poultry Profits, you can see that he says that 3-week-old chicks can get down to even 34 degrees. I do not like to push it that far. Like I said, 45 is kind of my baseline there for 3-week-old broiler chicks. But as long as nights are above that 45-degree mark and your chicks are at least 3 weeks old, I'd put them out. I would bump that up to 4 weeks for laying hen chicks and really look at how their feathers are doing. I tend to baby my laying hen chicks a little more than I do my broiler chicks. But if your broilers are 3 weeks old and your nights are above, maybe in the upper 40s, lower 50s, you should be good to go. Now, a key to that is you're not gonna just take them from their 90-degree brooder and stick them out in the evening on a 45-degree night when it's pouring rain and it's cold and it's damp. Please don't do that. That will not go well for you. A couple things you want to do is make sure, number one, that you're weaning your birds off the heat lamp. So if you're going to be moving them out at 3.5 weeks old, I would start turning off heat lamps so that they can get used to having lower temperatures still in the enclosed area of the brooder. So I think around 2.5 weeks old, this last time for me, I started turning off my brooder heat lamps. By the time the birds moved out at 3.5 weeks old, I was very confident they could handle it because a few days before I had completely turned off the heat lamps and they were living in just an unheated brooder. So that's tip number one, wean them off the heat lamps over the course of a week or so. All right, tip number two, put them out when you're expecting nice, dry, sunny weather. If you're looking at a forecast that's like rain, 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 cold rain for 4 or 5 days, I would personally wait to put them out. If it's damp and windy and cold, that is not gonna be a good, easy transition for your birds. I like to see a day or two of sunshine before you're expecting your first rain, or at least no precipitation in the forecast. If it's cloudy, that's fine too. But you don't want your birds getting wet and damp right away, especially because in those early times, they don't have all their feathers yet, so they are gonna have a lot harder time regulating their body temperature. So to recap, I like to put my meat chickens out at about 3 weeks old, or my laying chickens out at about 4 weeks old, and I like to make sure it's at least 45 degrees at night, if not more. So making sure it doesn't dip any lower than 45 degrees. And I always wean my chickens off of the heat lamp so that for a few days before at least, they are not having any supplemental heat. And then I make sure to move them outdoors when it is nice and sunny and not rainy, wet, damp, and cold. I hope this helps as you're moving your chickens out from the brooder to the big wide open world outside. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. Until next time.